Ladies and gentlemen, we send our children to schools and colleges to learn and grow, trusting that they will be safe in campus. We hope they learn not just from their teachers, but also in the companionship of their peers. But imagine the plight of a parent who gets to know that their child has jumped to death from the 26th floor in distress after being beaten, bullied, and tortured in school. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the tragic story of the parents of Mihir Ahmed, a 15-year-old who was ragged so mercilessly by his school friends, actually they weren't friends, that he felt that death was his only choice. The details of Mihir's ordeals, as narrated in a letter by his mother, paints a chilling picture. Mihir was beaten, he was verbally abused, and he was forced to endure unimaginable humiliation even on his last day. He was forcibly taken to the washroom. He was made to lick a toilet seat and had his head pushed onto the toilet while it was flushed. Can you imagine that, ladies and gentlemen? This is what his schoolmates were doing to him. What was his crime? His skin color. He was dark, and it was his skin color that invited ridicule and humiliation from his peers. This was a group that was so sick that it even celebrated the news of Mihir's suicide. Meanwhile, Mihir's school let him down not just in life but in death as well. An Instagram page titled Justice for Mihir was created by his friends in school, shedding light on these incidents, saying that it was ragging that pushed him to his death. In fact, it was through this page that Mihir's family found out that the reason behind his suicide was the ragging. However, the page has now been deleted, and there are reports that the school is intimidating students to suppress the truth. When the parents approached the school authorities with evidence and demanded accountability, they were rebuffed. The parents claimed these are attempts to cover up these incidents to protect the school's reputation. We've seen this happen before. With the shocking incident sparking national outrage, even Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi are demanding justice for Mihir. The Kerala government has now instituted an SIT to probe the matter.
We were expecting AIMS this time for Kerala, but there's no mention about AIMS in this year's budget. So this is quite unfortunate. So are we not a part of India? This is a question which is arising in every mind. So this is quite unfortunate.
Suresh Gopi has also made a statement about
both the union ministers from Kerala, they have.
Ladies and gentlemen, apologies. That was the incorrect soundbite of Veena George. We'll try and play the right one. But this shocking episode, ladies and gentlemen, is serving as a sobering reminder that ragging continues to be a clear and present danger in our schools and colleges. And it's time for society to demand strict accountability. Mihir's death must serve as a wake-up call for urgent change, so no child suffers this fate again. Let me straight away go to Mihir's mama, his uncle, who is joining us on the broadcast. Sir, thank you very much. You and your family have gone through a lot. Are you in a position to figure out what really happened to Mihir and why it happened?
Yeah, yes. So the incident happened on January 15th. And actually, like we couldn't accept it. Mihir's decision, we couldn't accept it. Everyone was in shock. And after one day on 16th, we got to know that there was a forum created in Instagram, a page in Instagram saying Justice for Mihir, and we started inquiring about it, and we got some screenshots of that group. Some screenshots we got of that group, and we inquired more. We got more screenshots. And those screenshots we have posted on, like my sister have posted it. I hope you had seen those screenshots. So once we got the screenshots, we inquired to his close friends, and his close friends also confirmed that Mihir had undergone this brutal ragging in his school, and they also they confirmed it to Mihir's mother that Mihir has undergone this brutal ragging. So uh, we inquired more. We inquired more about it. We got more screenshots. We got like the group was deleted in 2 days. We didn't know why the group was deleted in 2 days, and we mailed with all these proofs and the screenshots. We mailed this to the school, global public school, asking for a report. And next day we got a reply saying that they have handed over all the reports to police. That's the only acknowledged we got from school. And the screenshot said that the like the first screenshot we got was a story saying that Mihir was forcefully taken to toilet, and seniors made him lick the closet, and like they put his head inside the closet and they flushed it. So like this this is how we got to know that what happened in the school.
Can I ask you how it was possible for Mihir's parents not to know what was happening in school? Did he not communicate his ordeal at all with them?
We don't know why he didn't communicate it, because like even though he shared it with his friends, close friends, he made sure the family won't come to know about it. He made it sure.
Okay, you're saying he didn't want his family to know, which is why he didn't communicate it with them. Then are you holding the schools and teachers responsible? I ask you this question because this is a 14-year-old who is in school at least for 7 to 8 hours in a day. The teachers are supposed to monitor what is happening with the child. The principal is supposed to monitor what is going on in her school. Do you think they completely failed in their duty when they couldn't even detect that a child who had come 3 months ago to the school was being ragged so brutally in public places like a washroom?
Actually, actually, we don't know what happened. We got all these messages. We got all these screenshots. Like the school is supposed to tell us what happened actually, and school is like school haven't given us proper report on this. That's the reason. That's the reason we doubt what, like if they're trying to cover up to something, and we filed a complaint against this.
Can I then ask you in conclusion, as a family, what do you think should happen to those who ragged Mihir? Because, you know, at some point the argument will be these are minors. They didn't know what they were doing. As parents, as his uncle, as his family, do you look at these students as criminals who need to be punished for pushing a kid to death?
Like it's not about how we punish them. It's about if this has happened to Mihir and we have already lost Mihir, right? So we don't want anyone else to go through this. We should make sure of it. We have lost Mihir. He won't come back. We know that. But everyone should learn from this, that this should not happen in any school to any student. That's what we're fighting for.
Mohammad Sharif, I'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. It's a tough time for you, and during this time, you have decided to speak to us to tell us exactly what happened with Mihir. Thank you very much for joining us. Gaurav Singhal is the National Coordinator, the Society Against Violence in School Education. He's joining us on the broadcast. Thank you so much. Rajendra Kacharu is an anti-ragging activist, someone who lost his son to ragging many, many years ago, launched a movement against it, managed to achieve a lot. I want to ask him what he thinks when someone like a Mihir feels he has no option but to end his life. We have Dr. Deepak Reheja. He's a senior psychiatrist. He's joining us on the broadcast. And Onika Mehrotra is the director, principal of the Kalka Group of Institutions, joining us on the broadcast as well. Can I come to you, Mr. Kacharu, first as a parent who has lost a child? So you know exactly what Mihir's parents are going through. there is not just grief, there is not just anger, seething anger, there are also 100 questions. Many, many years ago, when you lost Aman, your son, you launched a movement to ensure that no child feels so desperate that he or she thinks death is the only way. When you see something like this happen to yet another child, this time a 14-year-old in a school, Mr. Kachru, do you think you have failed, we have failed, collectively the law that was to protect students in schools and colleges, that law has failed as well?
Disconnected again.
I don't think Mr. Kachru can hear us. We'll try and reconnect with him in just a bit as well. Would you want to respond to that, Gaurav?
I can hear you now.
Okay, Mr. Kachru, then go ahead. I'll let you answer that question.
I haven't heard the question because I just got connected. But
okay, no stress. I'm going to ask you that question again, Mr.
Kachru.
Kachru. Yeah, can I ask you, do you feel that everyone, including you, me, and the law and the anti-ragging law in this country has failed when you have a 15-year-old jump off the 26th floor of his house because he thinks he has no choice?
Can I answer this? Before I answer this, I want to express my sympathy with the family. 15 years is no age to die. But coming straight to your question, we have a situation here in India where the laws are good, implementation is very poor. We have a ragging regulation as good as law, for which was passed in 2009. And after that, for many years, it worked beautifully. Ragging reduced from 40% to less than 5%, but since 2019, that implementation is again poor, and we are seeing ragging increasing continuously in colleges. There is no law in place for bullying or in schools because there is an element of juvenile justice in it. We worked for many years, developed a draft in consultation with all the states. In 2019 or 2020, it was tabled, shelved completely by the government administrations and so on. So my conclusion here is, for last 15 years, 16 years, I'm working in this sector, it's not only the society that doesn't see it as a major problem, but it is also the officials, government officials who don't see it as a problem. The administrators do not see it as a problem. The college principals do not see it as a problem. Whether they are in schools or whether they are in colleges, they do not see it as a major problem at all. Human Rights Commission does not see it as a problem. So when there is a society where people do not see it as a problem, it just remains a law. We were pushing it hard until 2019 when COVID happened. There was a change in administration and the complete collapse. So when we have seen today, I'm seeing for the first time after 16 years, parliamentarians talking about it. For the last 16 years, I have never seen. I have seen a great admiration for media in this country who raise this issue from time to time. But I have not seen parliamentarians talking about it for the last 16 years. And I have not seen any government official talking about it seriously.
You know, Mr. Kachru, it'll only be taken seriously, and you'll only have government officials actually wake up and say that ragging happens not just in medical colleges in this country and engineering colleges in this country, but even schools, and so school kids need to be protected till their child is in a situation where they think, like Mihir, that they have no choice. That is the unfortunate truth. Gaurav Singhal, is it a complete fallacy to think? Give me a minute here. Is it a complete fallacy and a myth to think that ragging happens only at the IITs, only in engineering colleges, only in medical colleges? That clearly is not the case.
There are n number of cases. If you see, if you just Google in last 10 years, there will be n number of cases. in schools where where the poor kids have died, they have been bullied, they have been beaten, they have been sexual, if you take a case of Anurag Kashyap, the famous film director. He was at a school and he was brutally ragged. In fact, he had this mental, problem due to ragging. So it's a very big issue in the schools also, and we need to do something really very serious about it.
Gaurav, as someone who speaks to children who are being ragged, not necessarily school children, do you look at school children as well?
Exactly.
Okay. I want to ask you what the problem is. I'm just trying to, you try and put yourself in the shoes of the child being ragged. In this case, Mihir was being ragged because he was dark. There was a very objectionable word that was used for him by his peers, by his schoolmates, when they took him to the washroom and they put his head down on the commode and then they flushed it because he was dark. She said, "Thoda gora ho jayega tu." And once he died, even on, they had their own chat group, they were actually seen celebrating it. My point is this. I'm thinking to myself, every parent sends a child to school safe and secure that बच्चे को कुछ होगा नहीं, that child is safe at home and then the child is safe in school. Why is it that a child will not feel comfortable or bold or confident enough to go speak to his school teacher about it or his principal about it? Because in this case, had Mihir spoken up, maybe he would be alive today.
I would say two things. First is that these days, we find that these principals and teachers, they just, want to cover up all the things. And they are so strict that the student fear of, reaching out to them. First thing. Second thing is that the magnitude of, humiliation that the student was given. I think he thought that he didn't disclose it with his parents also and the teachers also. So I think these two factors were there. Whatever happened with him was really very brutal. That's why he was maybe shy, and I think school was also very tough. Had a very tough environment in which he shied.
The parents are talking about a cover-up, and I'm going to speak to Onika Mehrotra about that. But I just quickly want to get in Dr. Deepak Raheja as well. Dr. Deepak Raheja, is it just fear that stops a school kid from walking up to his school teacher or his principal to say, this is what is happening to me, this is the group that is bullying me and dragging me, you have to stop him? I'm just trying to understand why Mihir did not speak to his parents, did not speak to his principal, did not speak to his teachers.
See, so when bullying or harassment of the nature happens, the child feels ostracized, he feels isolated. It clearly is a major dent on his self-esteem and self-image, which possibly was already not very formidable and very well formed. The child is subject to series of abuse and he fears further isolation, is not able to cajole. So it's like the child is living in a make-believe world in his own cognitive space where he fears that if he was to report to somebody, and I would here say it probably is a big dent on the society, on the schools, not just this particular school, but any school or any society, to not be able to proactively create an environment which is supportive and nurturing enough that the child can have the courage to be able to speak up and say that this is happening to me, where a life like this could be saved, like Mr. Kachru said and everybody said that 15 years is no age to die, and any parent who sends the child to school hopes and believes that the child is going to be as safe as he is in at home. And for a trauma like this to go through, I can imagine the trauma that the family is going through, and for the post-traumatic flashbacks and challenges that the family goes through in terms of trying to believe what they could have done, what they may not have done. The school goes through it. We have a dialogue like this. I think we need to have SOPs for schools, for parents. If there was a driving law which was modified to say that if a juvenile is found driving, there was a certain amount of responsibility that was going to be affixed to the parents also. So similarly, in a situation like this, there has
Parents.
to be a certain amount of responsibility that's affixed to the parents also. So there is some amount of accountability, because I'm not willing to believe that the parents, if they are sensitive, if the society is sensitive, if the peers are sensitive, they will not be privy to bullying, deviant, admonishing behavior like this, which would have grown and reinforced over a period of time. And this is not an act that's impromptu, that
Okay.
may have just happened and one off, where they ended up bullying
Sure.
or harassing or ragging in the manner that they did.
Okay. Onika Mehrotra, here's the point. The point is the child had been, Mihir had been in the school for the last 3 months. This is a top class, a world class school that we are talking about here. And while Dr. Raheja says that parents need to tell their children, or at least ensure that the children trust them enough to come back and tell them if anything is happening to them in school. My point is, Onika Mehrotra, did the school fail in its duty? After all, this bullying, this ragging, this degrading behavior was going on in the school for the last 3 months. 3 months, and no one notices?
Ma'am, there are two parameters.
School teacher, the teacher doesn't notice, the principals don't notice, and it's not like his classmates didn't know what was happening. It's not like his schoolmates didn't know what is happening. The parents came to know about what had happened only after seeing chat groups of these students. So they knew kya ho raha tha. Did the school fail dramatically?
Well, there are two parameters to it. Am I audible? Can you hear my sound, please? Are you able to hear?
I can. Go ahead, please.
Am I audible?
I can. Go ahead, please. I can hear you, Onika ji.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
There are two parameters to it. At least in Delhi schools, I can vouch about it. Ma'am, it's mandatory to have a committee. It is mandatory to have a counselor. It is mandatory to have a special educators. These parameters all schools have to follow if they need an affiliation. And in schools like ours, we have special educators, we have counselors. And not only that, there are sensitive points. That is the corridors or the play fields. You know, these points where we have the coordinators coming and checking what's happening with the students. Then their teachers, their coordinators. It's surprising. It cannot be amiss if this is happening. And especially in peer groups, they discuss all this. My second point was the communication gap between the child and the parent. That's very unfortunate. You need to come and talk to the child. You need to find out how was the day in the school. The parent-teacher meeting is meant for all that. So the parents can tell their point of their side, and the teachers can put up their views. So it's a collaborative effect of all these parameters that groom the child. So it's very unfortunate that such a thing happening, that too in a washroom, and nobody's aware of it. So what is the missing link? That link has to be caught in that particular school. But if talking about schools in Delhi, we have committees formed. Every month, we need to write a report. Even if there's a little fight among, small children, we need to call the parents and address the issues. So issues needs to be addressed constantly. And yes, the principal no longer can sit in the room and monitor with the CCTV cameras. He or she has to be on the move constantly, especially when you're dealing with young children.
Onika ji, our country has a problem of committee pe committee, but no come.
No.
So you're telling me that, in Delhi schools at least, there are committees, there is this, there is that, there are bodies, there are special educators. Ma'am, are you trying to tell me that in Delhi schools, ragging and bullying doesn't take place?
All of us have
We
to
know that's not the truth, but I'll let someone who, ek minute, ma'am, I'll let someone who actually looks at these things speak. Gaurav, no, ek minute, ma'am, ek minute. Gaurav.
Overall, if in schools and in colleges, let me give you some data, colleges plus schools. We, cite the figure of quota suicides, okay? Let me give you a chilling figure. The number of suicides due to ragging in India overall were more than the number of suicides in quota last year in 2024, and in the preceding 3 years also, 71 suicides due to ragging compared to 55 suicides in quota. But nobody talks about these ragging suicides. Everyone talks about quota suicide. So this is a very burning issue, and media, as parents, our society, our politicians, administration, all of them need to take this issue very, very seriously.
So any school or any city cannot say we have enough counselors and there is no ragging and bullying that takes
But
place
what
in our
are the
schools. It
parameters
happens.
then, ma'am?
We know
Then
it
what is it that
anecdotally,
schools can do?
and now
Ma'am, that's what we can do, isn't it? Keep
what
a
is it
sharp
the schools
eye,
can do?
be monitoring.
Ma'am, the school,
we have
the
teachers.
least this school could have done.
Hold on, ma'am. I'm not
The
talking about
least
that particular
this school could have done was keep its eyes and ears open.
Absolutely.
If
That's
a
what I'm
child
trying
is
to
being
tell you.
taken to a washroom,
That's what
his
I'm
face
trying
is being put in the commode, and then
ma'am,
the
that's
flush
exactly
is being
what
put
I'm
on,
trying to tell
and
you.
this ragging has been taking place for 3 months. You at least keep your eyes and ears open, ma'am. That is
Who's
what a
denying
school
that?
can do.
Who's
Can I get
denying
Mr.
that?
Kacharu?
Who's denying
Ma'am,
that? Nobody's
where-
denying that, ma'am.
It's something that didn't happen in this case.
In particular case, but
And
in
this
general,
school, like all schools,
Can I
also
say
had
something?
counselors for children. Yes, Mr. Kacharu, please come in here because what the psychologist
I
on
want
the
to-
panel, what the educationist on the panel seem to be saying, just a minute, seem to be saying, sir, is parents need to be aware about what is happening to their children.
I heard
the
what
children need
they're
to come and
saying.
speak to parents. Go ahead, sir.
I want to. I need to say from my experience, children do not talk to parents. Even this college-going students do not talk to parents. But if you give them an opportunity to talk to a third person, a helpline, anonymous helpline, a system where they trust, they will talk, and they do talk. So that is what is required. We need an organization, we need a structure, we need a mechanism, methodology. We have these methodologies in place on theory, actually, but they are not implemented. Coming to Delhi schools, I have gone through many Delhi schools myself working for Delhi police, and I have seen that it's not observed. There may be counselors. There are many, in everywhere in India there are counselors, but there is no structured regulation. We don't have a regulation for bullying in this country. We can say there's law, there is no law. This child tomorrow they will have an SIT, they will have an investigation, this will be going under Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act and finished. So we do not have a preventive mechanism in place. And there is a lot of effort was done to have a preventive mechanism in place. The blueprint was made, but it was shelved.
Okay, Dr. Deepak Raheja,
That's
you're a
all I
senior
wanted to say.
psychiatrist. I want to ask you, give me a minute, sir. I need to wrap up, but I do have a question for Dr. Deepak Raheja, and I hope you can answer this in under 20 seconds. The 3 big signs for a parent and a school teacher to watch out for if their child is being bullied, slashed, ragged. How do you know?
An extreme departure or more than telltale signs that the personality is changing, the child is isolating himself, looks very absolutely distraught, or is exhibiting change in behavior that is different from what his core personality is. There can be many, many more signs which are neurobiological in nature. They can be sleep disturbances, they can be change in appetite, they can be change in the psychomotor activity. But please do look if your child is a quiet child and is suddenly beginning to talk a lot. If your child is an expressive child and you find that he's isolating himself, he or she is isolating himself and is talking less, if they are changing in eating pattern, if he's refusing to participate in social activities, is willing to not go out with you, has a fear of going to school or college, or it seems very fearful and persecuted, you do not ignore those signs. It is very important. An error of commission here is better than error of omission. Communicate with the child. The communication is very, I partly agree with Mr. Kachru, but if the parents are forthcoming, if there is an environment of trust that is created, the child will communicate. It is very important for the child to feel respected in his space and not judged. So it's very important for parents to not, or teachers not to trivialize and believe it to be a kid's thing or a growing up thing, or it happens in colleges or it happens in school. There has to be a big no. a zero tolerance to a behavior like this, because it is small incidents which grow up, get reinforced, and lead to tragedies like this.
And here's what's interesting. Mihir School actually used the word you did, that they have a zero tolerance for bullying and ragging. So they have a zero tolerance for bullying and ragging, and then a child commits suicide for exactly the same reasons. And then they go on to say, at least to parents, that we didn't know what was happening. We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much, Dr. Raheja, for joining us. Good to get you on the show. Rajendra Kachru, thank you very much for joining us. Gaurav Singhal, thank you very much for joining us as well. And Unika ji, thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm stepping into a quick break on the show. Up next, we are telling you what happened in Parliament today. Do stay with us.